There comes a moment in life when you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the reflection staring back, not because your face has changed, but because your soul is whispering, "This isn't who I was meant to be." You smile in public, you perform, you pretend, but deep down you're drowning in shame, guilt, fear, and it's eating you alive. You carry your insecurities like chains around your neck, convincing yourself that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy of peace. And here's the hard truth. If you don't confront the parts of yourself you despise, you will slowly become the very thing you hate. You say you hate being weak, yet you've allowed your pain to make you bitter. You hate being abandoned, yet you keep pushing people away before they get the chance. You hate being judged, yet you spend your days judging others to protect your fragile heart. This isn't about blame. This is about standing face to face with the ugliest parts of you and saying no more. Because your future, your freedom, depends on the decisions you make with the darkness inside of you. You can't heal what you keep hiding from, and you can't outrun what you refuse to face. You wake up every day, and before your feet hit the floor, that voice is already there. That voice that whispers, "You're not enough." That voice that tells you it's too late. You've messed up too much. You'll never be who you were supposed to become. And here's the danger. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shout. It sneaks in like a thief in the night and starts rewriting the story of your life while you're too tired to fight it. And over time, without even realizing it, you stop dreaming. You stop reaching. You stop believing. You start playing small. You start apologizing for taking up space. That inner critic, it's not just a voice. It's an identity thief. It convinces you that your mistakes are your name, that your failures are your future. But let me tell you something. That voice is a liar. It's not wisdom. It's a wound. It was planted by something or someone that made you feel like love had to be earned, like worth had to be proven. But the real you, the one that still aches for freedom, is buried beneath all that noise, waiting to rise up, waiting to be heard again. You weren't born doubting yourself. You weren't born questioning your worth. That was taught to you. Life handed you a script. And somewhere along the line, you accepted a role that wasn't even written by your own hand. Maybe it was a parent who never said, "I'm proud of you." Maybe it was a friend who betrayed you, a teacher who laughed at your dream, a lover who left. And now that pain is echoing in your head, calling itself truth. But it's not truth. It's trauma. And trauma left unhealed becomes a mirror that only shows you your flaws, your failures, your fears. It blocks out the light. And the worst part? You start living as if that reflection is all you'll ever be. You shrink in rooms where you should stand tall. You silence your voice when it should roar. You doubt your every move and then beat yourself up for not moving fast enough. It's a cycle. And the more you listen, the deeper it digs in. But you don't have to keep living like that. You don't have to let your inner critic hold the pen any longer. Your life is still being written. And the next chapter can be authored by courage, not shame. See, the voice in your head has been shaped by repetition. Every time you called yourself a failure, every time you said, "I'm stupid, I'll never make it, I always mess up." That wasn't harmless self-talk, that was programming. And the mind, it listens, it records, it believes. The more you repeated the lie, the more it became your reality. You've been hypnotized by your own hopelessness. So now when opportunities come, you sabotage them. When love shows up, you run from it. When peace tries to find you, you reject it. Because you don't believe you deserve it. That's the power of the inner critic. It doesn't just talk. It builds a cage. And then hands you the key and convinces you it's safer to stay locked up. But let me remind you, there was a time when you believed in yourself. When you laughed without shame, when you walked into rooms without worrying who was watching. That version of you still exists. You've just buried them beneath years of negative self-talk. It's time to dig them out, to breathe life back into your own identity. You were never the problem. The story you were told, that was the problem. Your identity is not your insecurity, but when you let that inner critic do all the talking, the lines start to blur. You say things like, "I'm just not confident," or "I've always been like this." No, that's not who you are. That's who you became while trying to survive. And there's a difference. Survival makes you adapt. It makes you hard when you're soft. It makes you quiet when you're meant to be loud. And you start living like your defense mechanisms are your personality. You wear armor everywhere you go, but deep down you're tired of carrying it, tired of pretending, tired of faking strength when all you want to do is scream. But the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of being seen, is louder than your desire to be free. So you stay in hiding. You protect the image while the soul withers. That's what the inner critic wants, to keep you small, to keep you safe, to keep you silent. But here's the truth. It's okay to admit that you've been hurt. It's okay to admit that you don't always believe in yourself. But don't let that be the period in your story. Let it be the pause. Let it be the moment you decided to fight back. Fighting back doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like standing in front of the mirror and saying, I forgive myself. Sometimes it's choosing not to believe that cruel thought that creeps in at 2 a.m. Sometimes it's walking into a room and refusing to compare yourself to everybody else. You see, growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's as small as choosing kindness over criticism. Even when that kindness is aimed at you, you've spent enough time picking yourself apart. You've rehearsed your flaws like a script. But what if you rehearsed your strengths just as much? What if you spoke about yourself like someone worth fighting for? Because you are. And you've always been. Even when you didn't feel like it. Even when you were lost in the noise. There's power in naming the voice that has haunted you. There's power in saying, that's not me. That's my pain talking. You are not the voice that tells you to give up. You are the one who keeps showing up. That's your truth. That's your identity. And that voice inside that says, I can do this, that's the one you need to turn up. It's a strange thing, how we become addicted to our own suffering. Not because we want to be miserable, but because it feels familiar. And what feels familiar feels safe. That's how the inner critic traps you. It tells you that your self-loathing is humble, that your pain is permanent, that change is dangerous. So even when a breakthrough is possible, you hesitate, you retreat, you tell yourself it's too late. But listen to me, it's not too late. The critic wants you to believe you're stuck, but you're not. You are not cement, you are clay. You can be reshaped, reformed, redeemed, but you have to be willing to challenge that voice that's been lying to you for years. You have to be willing to rewrite the story, even if your hands are shaking, because the truth is your future depends on whose voice you trust more, the one that calls you a failure or the one that whispers hope. And sometimes that whisper is your own soul crying out, begging you to come back home to yourself. Listen to that. Lean into that. That voice will lead you to freedom. There's something tragic about watching someone full of light walk around like they're nothing but darkness. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've been walking around apologizing for existing, smiling to keep people from asking if you're okay, numbing yourself just to get through the day. You think it's strength, but it's survival. And there's a difference. Survival is what you had to do back then. But now it's time to live. It's time to breathe without guilt, to laugh without waiting for it to be taken from you. But that means facing that inner critic and saying, you don't run this anymore. It means getting uncomfortable. It means challenging the thoughts that tell you you're not worthy of love, success, or joy, because if you don't, you'll keep sabotaging every good thing that tries to reach you. The blessing will knock, but you won't open the door because you've already convinced yourself it wasn't meant for you. That's not humility, that's hurt. And hurt doesn't have to define you. You get to rise. You get to reclaim. You get to love yourself without permission from the past. People don't realize how loud silence can be when your inner voice is your biggest enemy. You walk through life smiling on the outside, but your mind is a battlefield. You fight wars no one sees. And sometimes the scariest part isn't what other people think of you, it's what you think of yourself. That's why your healing has to start on the inside. You can't dress up pain and call it confidence. You can't fake your way out of self-hatred. The only way out is through the pain, through the tears, through the uncomfortable moments where you admit, I don't like who I've become. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's the moment of reckoning where transformation begins. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be real. Because once you get real, once you get honest, once you start challenging that voice inside, you'll hear something deeper beneath it. A quiet truth that's been waiting for you to listen. It says you are enough. You've always been enough. But you've got to silence the noise to hear it. You've got to stop feeding the critic and start feeding your soul. You're not going to wake up one day and just magically love yourself. It's a fight, a daily decision, a commitment to speak light when your mind wants to speak darkness. Some days you'll slip. Some days the critic will win. But that doesn't mean you're failing. That means you're human. That means you're in the middle of the battle. And that battle is proof you haven't given up. Don't let one bad day convince you to stop trying. Every time you challenge the thought that says you'll never change, you're changing. Every time you choose to be kind to yourself when it would be easier to hate, you're rewriting the narrative. Every time you decide to keep going, even when you don't feel like it, you're becoming who you were always meant to be. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. You were born with a purpose. And no inner critic, no old wound, no lie from the past can erase that. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not weak. You are rising. And the voice that once held you hostage, one day, it'll be just a whisper behind you. Because your truth will be louder. Hate never walks into your life with a warning sign. It doesn't barge in. It creeps slowly, quietly, like a shadow after betrayal, like a bruise after being disrespected. It begins with one wound, one moment, one person who crossed a line they shouldn't have crossed. And instead of healing, you swallowed it. You buried it. You told yourself it didn't matter, but it did. That pain left untouched became resentment. And that resentment turned into a mindset. You started expecting betrayal. You started preparing for disappointment. And somewhere along the way, that hate became familiar. It became your protection. You wore it like armor. And then, without even realizing it, you started treating people from your past like people in your future. You couldn't tell the difference anymore. Your hate became your lens. And now, even love looks suspicious. Even kindness feels like a setup. That's how hate becomes a habit, not because you're evil, but because you're hurt. Because you were never taught how to bleed and heal at the same time. You were just taught to survive. But survival built walls, not bridges. And now those walls are blocking the very freedom your heart cries for. Fool. You think hating them protects you, but it doesn't. It just poisons you slowly while they live their life untouched. You carry the weight while they forget the moment. You replay the betrayal while they've moved on. That's the trap. That's the trick. Hate gives you the illusion of control. It makes you feel strong because feeling broken is too much to bear. But strength isn't bitterness. Strength is release. Strength is standing in the fire and choosing to let go, not to burn. See, when hate becomes your habit, it colors everything you do. It affects how you talk to people, how you trust, how you sleep, how you dream. And suddenly your identity is wrapped up in vengeance. Not healing, not growth, not peace, just pain. That you've renamed power, but pain and power are not the same. One keeps you alive, the other keeps you locked up. You think you're winning by staying mad, but really you're just handing over more of your life to someone who already took too much. The moment you choose peace, you reclaim your power. That's where freedom begins. You weren't meant to carry this hate for so long. You weren't built for it. That's why it weighs so heavy. That's why your chest tightens every time their name is mentioned. That's why you find yourself irritated, snapping, shutting down, because hate is exhausting. It demands constant attention. It needs to be fed, rehearsed, justified, and the more you feed it, the more it grows. But here's what nobody tells you. Hate thrives where healing is absent. It survives in silence, in avoidance, in pretending you're okay when you're not. You never gave yourself permission to grieve the hurt. You just shoved it in the basement of your soul and locked the door. But emotions don't die, they wait. They wait until you're triggered, until something reminds you of what happened, and suddenly you're back in that moment. Angry, guarded, bitter. That's not living, that's reliving. And you deserve better than that. You deserve a life that isn't dictated by the people who broke you, but to get there, you have to confront the pain, not hide from it, not numb it, not bury it. You've got to face it. Because hate unhealed becomes a cycle. And cycles don't stop until someone decides to break them. You ever wonder why you snap at people who don't deserve it? Why you sabotage relationships that feel too good to be true? It's because hate doesn't stay where you put it. It leaks. It spreads. It infects. You thought you could keep it tucked away, only directed at the person who hurt you, but now it's touching people who love you, who want to see you win, who want to get close. But hate tells you closeness is dangerous, that love is weakness, that trust is stupid. So you build a fortress, thinking it'll protect you. But all it does is isolate you. Now you're alone, not because nobody cares, but because you've convinced yourself they'll hurt you too. That's what unhealed hate does. It turns you into someone you weren't meant to be. It makes you sharp when you're supposed to be soft, cold when you're meant to be warm, distant when you crave connection. But the truth is, hate won't fix what broke you. It won't erase the past. It won't give you justice. It'll just keep stealing from your present until one day you wake up and realize you've become what you hated. And that's a pain you don't want to carry. Some of the strongest people I know are carrying the heaviest hate. And I get it. You were lied to. You were betrayed. You were abandoned. You were made to feel like you didn't matter. That changes a person. That carves scars into your soul. But listen, you don't have to keep bleeding. Just because someone didn't see your value doesn't mean you don't have it. Just because someone discarded you doesn't. But when you hold on to hate, you keep handing them the microphone. You keep letting their actions define your identity. Hate tricks you into believing that holding on to it keeps you strong. But real strength is refusing to let broken people break you. Real strength is refusing to hand over your joy to someone who didn't protect it. You are not your pain. You are not your bitterness. You are not your revenge story. You are more than what they did, but you'll never experience that more if you keep rehearsing the hurt, if you keep clinging to the hate like it's a friend. It's not. It's a thief. And it's been stealing your peace for far too long. You see, when hate turns into habit, it becomes your identity. You don't just feel angry, you become anger. You don't just feel mistrust, you become mistrusting. You start to see life through a distorted lens and everything begins to look like a threat. Every smile feels fake, every compliment feels like a setup, every act of love feels like manipulation. And you think you're being smart. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're just building a world where nobody can reach you. Not even the real you, the one that wants to heal, the one that wants to hope again. That version of you is still alive, just buried beneath the bitterness. But it's not too late. You don't have to stay hardened. You don't have to keep proving how unbothered you are. Let me tell you, real healing doesn't look like not caring. It looks like caring differently, with boundaries, with grace, with courage. Hate makes you feel powerful, but love makes you whole. And when you finally release that weight, when you finally say, I deserve better than carrying this, you'll feel it. Lightness, freedom, a version of yourself you forgot existed. You might think forgiveness means weakness, that letting go means they won. But forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your space, your peace, your joy. See, when hate becomes a habit, it doesn't just affect how you see others. It affects how you see yourself. You start believing you're not worthy of joy, that the world is out to get you, that nobody's real, and you live from a place of constant defense, constant alert, constant fear. That's no way to live. That's no way to thrive. You weren't created to survive every day. You were created to live fully, boldly, lovingly. But you can't do that while dragging around the chains of hate. The world already has enough cold hearts. Yours doesn't have to be one of them. You can be someone who was hurt, but still chose healing, who was broken, but still chose to build, who was lied to, but still chose truth. That's power. That's what legacy looks like. Hate wants you to rot. Healing wants you to rise. Choose what builds you, not what buries you. Sometimes the hardest part about healing is accepting that you won't get the apology. You won't get the closure. You won't get the justice your soul demands. And that's where hate tries to fill the gap. It whispers, if they won't pay for it, you carry it. And so you do. You carry the memory, the anger, the bitterness. But carrying it doesn't heal you, it chains you. Every step forward feels heavy because you're dragging a past that should have been buried. But here's the thing. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide. You decide to let go. You decide to choose peace. You decide to heal, not because they made it right, but because you refuse to let it keep ruining your life. That's the power you still have. Even if they never change, even if they never care, you can still choose freedom. You can still build a life that isn't defined by their damage. That's the beauty of healing. It doesn't erase what happened, but it rewrites what it means to you. And that rewrite can change everything. You weren't meant to live bitter. You weren't designed for hate. That's why it doesn't feel good long term. That's why you're exhausted even when you're winning. Because deep down, your soul knows this isn't who you are. You're not your trauma. You're not your rage. You're not your defense mechanisms. You're still in there. The real you. The you who used to laugh without looking over your shoulder. The you who used to love openly, trust easily, dream wildly. That person didn't die. They just got buried under layers of disappointment and protection. But now it's time to dig them out. Time to remember who you were before the world hurt you, before hate took root. Healing isn't easy. It requires honesty. It requires sitting with the pain and feeling every ounce of it, but it's worth it, because on the other side of healing is clarity, is strength, is joy. Not the kind of joy you fake for the world, but the kind that bubbles up from the soul, the kind that hate can't touch. That's who you really are, and that's who you're fighting to become again. People watch how you treat yourself even when you think they're not looking. They notice the way you speak about yourself, the way you care for your mind, your body, your soul. If you constantly downplay your worth, make yourself the punchline, overextend to please everyone else while abandoning yourself in the process, what you're really doing is sending out a signal, a silent message that says, this is what I believe I deserve. And the world listens. The world mirrors. You think you're just being humble, but humility isn't self-erasure. You think you're being generous, but generosity without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. And when people see that you don't value your time, your energy, your peace, they'll treat those things the same way. That's not cruelty. That's conditioning. You condition people to honor you by how you honor yourself. You train them on how to treat you through what you tolerate, what you accept, and what you reinforce. If you keep giving all of yourself while asking for nothing in return, you can't be surprised when that's all they expect. The respect you demand from others must first echo from within, because the world can't give you what you won't give yourself. When you constantly put yourself last, people begin to believe that's exactly where you belong. You can't show up as your own afterthought and expect to be someone else's priority. That's not how this works. See, the way you love yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you treat yourself like a burden, others will too. If you speak to yourself with harshness, the world will follow your lead. You are the standard. And people are watching. They're learning you. They're picking up on what you allow, what you excuse, what you defend. Every time you tolerate disrespect and silence, you whisper to the world, I'm okay with this. Every time you dismiss your needs, every time you overextend without rest, you teach the world that your well-being is optional. But let me tell you, it's not. Your peace is essential. Your worth is non-negotiable. But that only becomes truth in the world when it becomes truth within you. You have to model the love you hope to receive. You have to show up for yourself the way you wish someone else would. You are not asking for too much. You're just asking from the wrong place if you haven't given it to yourself first. You don't have to beg people to respect you. You don't have to chase validation, attention, or affection. But here's the thing. You do have to embody it. You have to walk like someone who's already enough. Talk like someone who knows they matter. Move like someone who isn't trying to earn love, but simply allowing it to flow. That shift changes everything, because people treat you based on how you treat you. If you walk into rooms apologizing for your existence, they'll believe you don't belong. If you shrink yourself to make others comfortable, they'll forget your presence. But when you carry yourself with quiet confidence, not arrogance, not ego, just certainty in your value, people respond to that. Energy is real. And yours is teaching constantly. If you keep sacrificing your peace for approval, All you're doing is teaching people that you're willing to trade your soul for scraps. You were not put here to be tolerated. You were put here to be valued. But that message starts with you. Because self-respect doesn't shout. It radiates. And when you radiate worth, the world has no choice but to adjust. The mirror you hold to yourself becomes the mirror the world uses to reflect you. If you call yourself unworthy, if you criticize every inch of your being, if you constantly second guess your voice, your ideas, your purpose, the world mirrors that back. You don't see support, you don't see opportunity, you see more doubt. But if you stand in front of that mirror and say, I am enough, I may not be perfect, but I'm worthy. I am learning, growing, healing, and I still deserve love, respect, and peace. Something begins to shift. That shift isn't just in your words, it's in your energy. And that energy sets boundaries before you even speak. You stop letting people walk over you because you've stopped walking over yourself. You start protecting your time, your space, your joy. Not from a place of arrogance, but alignment. You realize that every time you say yes, when your soul says no, you are betraying yourself. And the more you betray yourself, the more people learn that it's okay to betray you too. But when you hold your boundaries like a lifeline, when you protect your energy like treasure, others learn to do the same. That's how you teach the world. Somewhere along the way, you might have learned that love meant self-sacrifice, that being good meant being silent, that being needed meant being valuable. But all those lessons taught you to abandon yourself, to pour into others from an empty cup. And now you're running on fumes, wondering why nobody pours back into you. It's because you've trained the world that your needs come last, that your rest isn't important, that your voice is negotiable. But your needs matter, your rest matters, your voice matters. You don't have to suffer to prove your worth. You don't have to stretch yourself thin to be enough. That narrative needs to be unlearned. Because the longer you live by it, the more people will assume it's true. They'll keep taking, not out of malice, but because you never said stop. You never said, I matter too. So they never learned. But today can be different. Today you can start showing the world that your soul has limits, that your love has structure, that your time has value. You don't have to scream it. You just have to live it. And when you live it, the world will notice. They always do. There's power in how you show up for yourself. Do you wake up and speak life over your day, or do you expect it to fall apart before it even begins? Do you look in the mirror and nitpick your flaws, or do you acknowledge the strength it took just to keep going? Your internal dialogue isn't just internal. It becomes your frequency, and your frequency attracts experiences, people, and outcomes that match it. When you love yourself well, you attract people who love you well. When you honor your time, people start showing up on time. When you set boundaries without guilt, others begin to respect your space. It's not magic. It's alignment. You're simply teaching the world what's acceptable in your presence. And that teaching starts every morning when you choose how to view yourself. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You just have to be present. Present enough to notice when you're talking to yourself like an enemy instead of a friend. Present enough to correct the lie that says your worth is based on your productivity. You are already enough. Start treating yourself that way and watch the world follow. You are allowed to set the standard, not based on what others want from you, but based on what you know you deserve. If you don't want chaos, stop entertaining it. If you crave peace, stop inviting drama. If you want love, stop settling for attention. Every decision you make about how you show up for yourself is a lesson you give the world. You're not here to be everyone's savior. You're not here to be liked by all. You're here to live fully, truthfully, and freely. But you can't live freely while constantly abandoning yourself for the sake of others. It's not selfish to put yourself first. It's sacred. Because the most dangerous thing you can do is make yourself small for people who were never meant to hold your greatness. Stop waiting for permission to honor yourself. Start giving it. You don't need applause to validate your standards. You don't need approval to protect your peace. Walk boldly, walk fully, and the people who are meant for you will rise to meet you at that level. Everyone else will fall away. And that's not a loss. That's alignment. Too often we tolerate what drains us because we're afraid of being alone. But here's the truth. Being alone while whole is better than being surrounded while hollow. You can't keep betraying yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Every time you do, you chip away at your own soul. Every time you silence your needs, every time you overgive, every time you shrink for the sake of keeping the peace, you're really just keeping the pattern. And people will keep pushing until you push back. They'll keep taking until you say no. They'll keep expecting until you recalibrate the expectations. That starts with you. Your energy teaches people how to treat you. If you treat yourself with kindness, others learn to do the same. If you demand rest, demand care, demand truth from within, you stop settling for counterfeit love on the outside. This isn't about being hard. It's about being clear. Clarity is love. Boundaries are love. Self-respect is love. And once you love yourself like that, deeply and unshakably, you won't fear the loss of anyone who can't meet you there. You don't have to explain your value. You just have to embody it. You don't have to argue for your worth. You just have to believe it. When you carry yourself like someone who matters, the world adjusts. Not instantly, not perfectly, but inevitably. You're not begging for a seat at the table. You are the table. You are the standard. And when you treat yourself like royalty, the world learns to treat you like royalty. Not because of your titles, not because of your image, but because of your energy. Energy never lies. If you're filled with self-doubt, self-neglect, self-sabotage, that will show. But if you're rooted in self-love, self-trust, and self-respect, that becomes undeniable. Your life becomes a reflection of your inner climate. So take care of that climate. Water it with grace. Nourish it with truth. Protect it from what doesn't serve. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to practice what you preach to yourself first. And when you do that, everything around you starts to mirror that truth. The world is your reflection. Teach it well. Healing doesn't begin with pretending you're okay. It doesn't begin with spiritual quotes, fancy routines, or well-crafted Instagram posts. It begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. That's where the real work starts. Radical honesty isn't about being dramatic. It's about being real. Real with your pain, real with your patterns, real with the reasons you keep ending up in the same place over and over. It's looking yourself in the mirror and finally admitting, I've been avoiding this. It's saying, yes, I'm still hurt when you've been faking strength. It's telling the truth about the things you've been denying for years. The stuff that hurts to say out loud, because the truth will always find a way to surface. You can hide behind distractions, behind people, behind busyness, but the truth doesn't dissolve in silence. It waits, and it will keep waiting until you're ready to face it. Because you cannot heal what you keep pretending isn't broken. You cannot evolve in a lie. So healing starts when you stop running. When you sit with the truth, even if it shakes you, even if it humbles you, even if it brings you to your knees, that's when the transformation begins. Radical honesty is uncomfortable because it demands confrontation. It forces you to examine the roles you've played in your own suffering. It's easy to blame the world. It's easy to say, they hurt me, or life is unfair. And yes, maybe those things are true, but healing requires more than finger pointing. It requires responsibility. It means asking, where did I abandon myself? Where did I silence my truth to keep someone else comfortable? Where did I ignore the warning signs because I didn't want to be alone? That kind of truth hurts. But that kind of truth also heals. It cracks the illusion wide open. It breaks the cycle. Because when you stop waiting for someone else to fix what's broken, you reclaim your power. You stop being the victim of your story and start becoming the author of a new one. Radical honesty says, I made mistakes. I stayed too long. I kept quiet when I should have spoken. I forgot who I was. And instead of letting shame drown you, you let that truth liberate you. You rise with it. Because no healing is possible until you face what is. And facing what is without flinching is where you get your life back. You can't build a strong foundation on denial. You can't love yourself deeply if you're still lying to yourself quietly. The truth will shake you before it frees you. That's why most people avoid it, because being radically honest means letting go of the stories that comforted you, the lies you told to feel safe, like I'm over it when you're still haunted at night, like I'm fine when your soul is exhausted, like it's not a big deal when it broke you. Those little lies stack up, and over time they keep you trapped in a version of yourself that's disconnected from who you really are. But when you start telling the truth, even the ugly, painful, unfiltered truth, something inside you starts to shift. You stop feeling like an imposter in your own skin. You begin to breathe deeper, cry harder, feel more. And that feeling, as overwhelming as it is a signal you're alive again, you've returned to yourself. That's what truth does. It brings you home. And once you're home, you can begin to rebuild. Not a performance, not a mask, but a life that honors what you truly feel, want, and need. That's where healing truly begins. Radical honesty means admitting what isn't working anymore. The job that drains your soul, the relationship that steals your peace, the habits that keep you numb, the people you keep around out of guilt, not growth. You can't fix what you keep justifying. You can't heal in places that keep wounding you. But the truth is scary because change is scary. So you stay, you settle, you shrink. But deep down, you know, this isn't it. And when you start telling yourself that truth, no matter how uncomfortable, you begin clearing space for something better. It's not just about removing what hurts. It's about making room for what heals. But you have to be honest about what no longer fits the version of you you're becoming. Healing requires decluttering your life of emotional noise. And that starts with radical truth, saying, I deserve better, and then acting like it. Saying, I can't keep pretending, and then finally stopping. You don't need the world's permission to live a life rooted in truth. You just need your own courage. Because when you honor truth, you create alignment. And where there's alignment, there's peace. That's how healing shows up. Silently, steadily, truthfully. There's nothing more powerful than a person who stops lying to themselves. That kind of person is dangerous to every false narrative, every toxic pattern, every cycle of self-sabotage that once held them captive. When you get radically honest, you stop chasing what doesn't match your truth. You stop begging for love from people who can't give it. You stop explaining your worth because you finally see it, not through ego, but through clarity. You see where you've been tolerating too much. You recognize the patterns. You call out the excuses. You realize I've outgrown this version of me. And the old you, the one who kept settling, kept pleasing, kept shrinking, begins to fade. That's not loss. That's resurrection. Because the real you, the whole you, starts emerging. And it's not easy. Radical honesty isn't cute. It will wreck your comfort zone. It will challenge your pride. But it will also save your life. It will teach you to speak your truth, stand in your light, and stop making yourself small for anyone or anything. And once that shift happens, there's no going back. That's when your healing turns into transformation. That's when you finally start living free. Healing doesn't happen in silence. It happens in truth. It happens when you say what you're afraid to say. When you confess the things you've carried for years. When you stop pretending that time alone is enough to heal a wound you never cleaned out. Time can't heal what honesty never touched. You've got to open it up, air it out, speak it aloud. Not to everyone, but to yourself first. To your journal, to your mirror, to God, to someone who won't judge your pain, but will witness it. Because healing is a sacred process and truth is its doorway. If you keep covering it up, numbing it out, dressing it up in fake smiles and fake confidence, you will never truly be free. You'll just be functioning while broken. And you deserve more than that. You deserve wholeness, peace, clarity. You deserve to live in a life that reflects the truth of your soul, not the fear of your past. So start where it hurts. Start with what's real. Speak the truth and let that truth rebuild you. Let it strip away the lies. Let it clear the fog. That's the only way to heal for real. Sometimes the truth is you're still angry. Sometimes the truth is you miss someone you shouldn't. Sometimes the truth is you feel lost, confused, bitter, jealous, numb. That's okay. Healing doesn't require you to be perfect. It just asks you to be real. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to stop hiding the questions. You have to stop burying the feelings because someone told you they were too much. There is no too much when it comes to your truth. There is only what is. And what is must be felt before it can be healed. The emotions you avoid are the very ones that hold the keys to your freedom. So cry if you need to, scream if you must, write it down, say it out loud. but don't keep swallowing your truth for the sake of appearing strong. Strength isn't suppression, it's expression. It's showing up in your rawest form and saying, this is me, and I'm healing even if it's messy. Because the only way out of the storm is through it. And the truth will walk with you every step of the way. All you have to do is let it. Radical honesty means calling yourself out. Not to shame yourself, but to free yourself. It means asking, am I really okay? Or am I just surviving? It means questioning the mask you've learned to wear, the one that says, I've got it all together, the one that hides behind busyness, the one that performs for applause. Healing asks you to remove them all. Strip it back to your soul. Look in the mirror and say, this is what I'm really feeling. This is what I really need. Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need closure. Maybe you need to forgive. Or maybe you need to walk away. But you can't give yourself what you need if you keep lying about what that is. Healing is the reward of truth-telling. The truth might not change overnight, but it begins to loosen the grip of fear. It begins to return your breath, your focus, your self-trust, because you're no longer living a lie. And when you stop lying to yourself, you stop settling for relationships, jobs, habits, and stories that lie to you. You raise your standard. You create space for authenticity. That's when the healing sticks. That's when it finally feels real. The hardest part of healing is not the pain, it's the honesty. It's saying this relationship isn't healthy when you still love them. It's saying I've been lying to myself when you wanted to believe otherwise. But what's harder than honesty is staying stuck in a life that doesn't feel like yours. That's the true weight. And radical honesty lifts that weight, not all at once, but piece by piece. Each truth sets you freer. Each admission opens a door. You'll begin to see that healing is not a destination, it's a return. A return to your center, a return to the truth you buried, a return to the version of you that existed before the world taught you to hide. And once you find that version again, the raw, radiant, real you, you'll never want to lose it. That's why honesty matters. That's why it's worth it. Because healing doesn't just repair what's broken. It reclaims what was always whole beneath the wound. But you have to dig. You have to face it. You have to tell the truth, even if your voice shakes. That's not weakness. That's power. And power born from truth is the most unshakable kind there is. Everybody wants transformation, but nobody wants pain. Everybody wants to rise, but nobody wants to burn. But listen to me, transformation doesn't come when things are easy. It comes when life breaks you open, when it brings you to your knees, when it strips away your comfort, your ego, your plans. And in that moment, when you've got nothing left but truth and breath and grit, that's when the real shift begins. See, pain is the passage. You can't go around it. You can't skip the hard parts and expect to come out stronger. You've got to walk straight through the fire. Because pain isn't just here to break you, it's here to build you. It's the test that shows you who you really are. It's the storm that washes away what was never meant to stay. You think your strength comes from what you avoid? No. It comes from what you survive, from what you face head on. From the nights you cried, but didn't quit. From the mornings you got up even when you didn't know how. Pain is the tool that shapes you, carves you, refines you. And until you embrace it, you'll never experience the full transformation of who you were born to be. We live in a world that teaches us to escape pain, to numb it, avoid it, silence it with distraction. But what if I told you pain has something to say? What if I told you pain is not the enemy, but the invitation to grow, to change, to evolve? You see, nothing transforms in the shallow end. Growth happens in the deep, where it's dark and uncertain, and most people spend their lives avoiding that place. Terrified of what they'll feel. But you've got to feel it to heal it. You've got to face it to grow through it. Pain pulls up the truth. It shows you what needs to change. It reveals the cracks in the foundation so you can build stronger. If you bypass it, you repeat it. That's why some people stay stuck in the same cycles for years. They never sit with the discomfort long enough to understand the lesson. But the moment you stop running from pain and start learning from it, everything changes. You stop asking, why has this happened to me? And you start asking, what is this here to teach me? That shift right there is where transformation begins. Transformation is not pretty. It's not a social media highlight reel. It's not candles and journals and feel-good affirmations. Sometimes transformation is crying on the floor at 3 a.m., wondering if you're strong enough to keep going. Sometimes it's losing people you thought would always be there. Sometimes it's feeling completely lost so you can finally be found. Real transformation costs you comfort. It costs you your old identity. It forces you to let go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. And that process hurts. It stretches you, it humbles you, but it's sacred because what's being born in that pain is something real, something lasting. Pain burns away the illusions. It tears down the lies. And all that's left is you, raw, real, and ready. Not to go back to how things were, but to step into something greater. The version of you that can't be shaken, that doesn't settle, that knows what they're worth. That kind of change doesn't happen around pain. It happens through it. So if you're in it right now, don't curse it. Don't rush it. Let it work. Let it transform you. Because you're not being buried, you're being planted. Nobody ever became great by avoiding the struggle. Every strong soul you admire, every person who walks in truth and power has scars. They didn't get there through comfort. They got there through chaos, heartbreak, failure, and fire. And they didn't escape it. They faced it. They felt every ounce of it, and they came out on the other side forged in something unshakable. That's how you build wisdom. That's how you build resilience. You learn what you're made of when life stops going your way, when everything falls apart and you've got to rebuild from rubble. That's when character is born. That's when you discover your inner foundation. Pain is the great revealer. It shows you who's real. It shows you what's true. It shows you who you are when no one's clapping and nothing's easy. And that version of you, the one who survives, the one who pushes through, the one who refuses to break, is the real you. That's the you that transformation reveals. Not a copy, not a mask, but a warrior. And you earn that title through pain. So stop asking for the shortcut. The pain is the way. Go through it and watch who you become. People pray for purpose, but avoid the pain that reveals it. You want your life to mean something? You want to walk in divine alignment? Understand this. Purpose is born in fire. You don't find your calling in comfort. You find it in adversity. In the moments when everything feels uncertain, when you're stripped of everything you thought made you valuable, that's when you begin to discover who you really are. Pain removes the noise. It gets rid of the fake. It silences the ego. It gets you real, fast. And when all the distractions are gone, you begin to hear something deeper, the voice of truth, the whisper of God, the call that's been waiting for you to slow down and listen. Pain has a way of pulling you closer to purpose if you let it. If you stop resenting it and start receiving it. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. And when you stop trying to go around it and start going through it, you begin to see the gold in the ashes. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, love differently. Because the pain didn't destroy you, it delivered you. And now you've got something real to offer this world. You don't grow from what's easy. You grow from what stretches you. And nothing stretches you like pain. Pain tests your patience. It tests your faith. It pushes you past your limits. And in that process, it reveals new strength. It reveals new depth. Every trial you endure builds something within you that cannot be taken away. See, you can lose money, you can lose status, you can lose people. But what pain teaches you, that's yours forever. That's wisdom. That's endurance. That's clarity. And clarity is priceless. Because once you've walked through pain, you see things differently. You stop tolerating nonsense. You stop betraying yourself for approval. You stop apologizing for your truth. Pain grows you up. It sharpens your discernment. It deepens your compassion. It anchors your soul. But you have to let it work. Don't try to numb it. Don't try to escape it. Sit with it. Ask it what it came to teach you. Let it be the fire that burns off everything that's not meant to stay. That's where the transformation happens. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. There is no rebirth without the breakdown. No elevation without the excavation. You want to rise? First, you got to be willing to fall apart. Because the old you, the one tied to people pleasing, to fear, to playing small, can't come with you where you're going. That version of you has to die. And that death is painful. It means letting go of the familiar. It means grieving what was. It means being honest about what's no longer aligned. But from that death comes something sacred, rebirth, a new you, a higher you, a version of you that walks in integrity, that moves in faith, that loves without losing themselves. That kind of transformation is not instant. It's not easy, but it is holy. Because it's the process of becoming, the process of alignment. And though the world may not understand it, your soul does. Your soul knows that pain has a purpose, that every tear, every heartbreak, every setback is leading you to something greater. Not in the future, right now, inside you. Let the pain cleanse you. Let it rewire you. Let it birth the version of you that no longer needs to pretend. That's where freedom lives. Pain will either shape you or shatter you, but that choice is yours. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. You can use it as an excuse, or you can use it as fuel. The pain you're feeling today is the soil for the strength you'll walk in tomorrow if you don't give up, if you don't numb out, if you don't run. Stay with it. Learn from it. Let it transform the way you think, the way you speak, the way you show up. Pain has a language. And once you speak it fluently, you begin to see through the illusion. You begin to recognize what's real. You begin to move from survival into purpose. That's what transformation does. It doesn't just fix you, it upgrades you. It doesn't just heal you, it equips you. You become someone who's been through fire and didn't burn, who faced the storm and didn't drown. And once you become that, there's no turning back. You move different. You think different. You live different. That's the reward on the other side of pain. But you've got to walk through to get it. Look at your life. The pain you went through, it didn't destroy you. It exposed you. It showed you the cracks in your foundation. It revealed the places where you needed to grow. Maybe it broke your heart. Maybe it shattered your plans. But it also woke you up. It gave you perspective. It made you stronger, wiser, more real. That's the thing about pain. It doesn't just come to hurt you. It comes to hand you the tools to rebuild. And the version of you that's rising from the ashes, that's the version that doesn't settle, that doesn't shrink, that doesn't lie to themselves anymore. That's the version of you that walks in truth, in power, in purpose. That transformation didn't come around the pain. It came through it. And now you've got something deeper than motivation. You've got conviction. You've got experience. You've got scars that speak of survival, not defeat. And every step you take now carries weight because you know what it took to get here. You earned this healing. You earned this clarity. And no one can take that away from you. So don't run from the pain. Don't curse the fire. Let it refine you. Let it raise you. Because you're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being broken, you're being built. Transformation is not some magical event. It's a painful process. But on the other side of that process is freedom, is peace, is purpose. So walk through it, cry through it, crawl if you have to, but don't quit. Don't numb the very thing that's here to elevate you, because when you finally come through the other side, you'll look back not with resentment, but with reverence. You'll say, that pain didn't end me, it evolved me. That's the gift. That's the promise. That's the power of going through it, not around it. And the person who comes out, unshakable, unstoppable, unapologetically transformed. You can try to change through fear. You can try to change through shame. You can try to force yourself into becoming someone new by punishing who you used to be. But I'm telling you, none of it lasts. None of it sticks. Because transformation that comes from hate for yourself, that's not transformation. That's performance. And the mask always slips. Real change, deep, permanent, soul-level change only comes through love. Love is the only force powerful enough to rewrite your identity. Love is the only truth strong enough to reach the parts of you that have been buried under pain, under lies, under trauma. You can't bully your way into becoming whole. You've got to be loved into it. And I'm not talking about weak, watered down love. I'm talking about the love that sees you at your lowest and refuses to walk away. The love that says you're still worthy. That kind of love breaks chains. That kind of love rebuilds a person from the inside out. Because when you know you're loved, not for your performance, not for your perfection, but for your essence, you stop trying to be someone else. You start becoming who you really are. That's how identity shifts. That's how healing begins. Most people are wearing identities they didn't choose. Identities built from rejection, from failure, from abuse. Someone told you that you weren't enough, and somewhere deep down you believed it. Life handed you labels and you wore them like armor. Too sensitive, too much, not enough. You started living like those lies were truth. But here's the thing. Love tells a different story. Love doesn't look at your past and see a mess. It sees meaning. It sees potential. Love doesn't shame you for the wounds you carry. It honors the fact that you survived. When love speaks, it doesn't echo the voice of your trauma. It speaks with the voice of truth. It says you are not your mistakes. It says you are not broken beyond repair. It says, I see you. I choose you. You are enough as you are. And when you finally start believing that love, truly receiving it, not just from others, but from God, from yourself, that's when the real shift begins. That's when the false self starts to fall away. That's when healing isn't just a wish, it becomes a reality. Because love builds identity, not the kind that crumbles in crisis, but the kind that stands firm through every storm. You can try all the strategies. You can change your routine, your job, your relationships, your environment, but until your identity shifts, the change won't last. Because your behavior always follows your beliefs. And if you still believe deep down that you're unworthy, unlovable, not enough, you'll sabotage the good things that come your way. That's why love isn't optional. It's essential. Love doesn't just change what you do, it changes what you believe about who you are. That's why people who finally learn to love themselves start living differently. They stop begging for attention. They stop chasing validation. They stop compromising their soul to be accepted. Because when love gets in you, real love, it builds a new foundation. It teaches you that your worth isn't earned, it's inherent. That you were never too broken to be loved. You just believed the wrong story for too long. But now the truth is rising. The truth that says you are sacred. You are chosen. You are seen. And when that truth becomes your new identity, everything changes. Not because you're trying harder, but because you finally know who you are. And when you know who you are, you stop living beneath your calling. The greatest lie the world ever told you is that you have to become enough. You don't have to become what you already are. You just have to remember. Love doesn't ask you to perform. Love calls you to return. Return to the truth. Return to your core. Return to the version of you before the world got its hands on you. That's what real love does. It reminds you of who you've always been. It peels back the labels, the fear, the shame, and shows you your soul. And that's where identity is rewritten, not in striving, but in surrender, not in hustle, but in healing. And it takes courage to let love in. Because love will confront every lie you believed about yourself. Love will say, no, that's not who you are. Love will challenge your self-hate. It will interrupt your pity. It will break your addiction to brokenness. And it will feel uncomfortable at first because love speaks a language you haven't heard in a long time. But if you let it stay, if you stop pushing it away, love will make a home inside you. And once it lives in you, you'll never look at yourself the same again. Let me tell you something. Pain distorts identity, but love restores it. Some of y'all are living with wounds that go back decades, and you think the damage is permanent. But love doesn't care how long it's been. It shows up anyway. Love walks into the darkest room and flips the light on. Love doesn't need you to be fixed. It meets you where you are. That's why healing happens in love, because love creates safety. Love creates space. And in that space, you finally feel free to be, not to pretend, not to earn, but to exist, fully seen, fully known, and still fully embraced. That's where the rewriting starts. When you stop trying to impress and start telling the truth. When you stop performing and start breathing. When you stop hiding and say, here I am. Because love doesn't need the version of you that has it all together. Love just needs the version of you that's honest. And once that part of you is touched by love, it starts to bloom. That's the power of it. Love doesn't force. Love invites. Love doesn't manipulate. Love transforms. And slowly but surely, you start walking different. Not because you changed who you are, but because you remember. Love will do what fear never could. It will set you free. Fear controls. Fear says, don't change. You'll never make it. Fear says, if they see the real you, they'll leave. But love whispers, you are already enough. Love says, let them see you, let them know you, because you are worth loving exactly as you are. And when that voice becomes louder than fear, your whole identity shifts. You stop living in defense. You stop protecting your wounds with pride and anger. You let your walls down, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to be vulnerable. And it's in that vulnerability that transformation happens. You stop striving to be lovable and you start receiving love. You stop punishing yourself for your past and you start building your future with grace. Love doesn't remind you of your flaws. It reminds you of your wholeness. It sees your cracks and calls them character. It sees your journey and calls it beautiful. That's why love changes you. It touches the core. And once love gets a hold of your identity, nothing can shake it. Because love doesn't just patch you up. It rebuilds you from the inside out. Identity built on love is unshakable. See, when you build your worth on achievements, relationships, money, you're always at risk. Because if you lose the job, if they leave, if the applause stops, your identity crumbles. But love anchors you. Love says, even if you lose everything, you haven't lost you. That kind of identity can't be bought. It can't be broken. Because it's not based on what you do. It's based on who you are. And when you truly know who you are, you stop needing the world to validate it. You stop shrinking for approval. You stop chasing people who never saw your value. Because you know your worth isn't up for debate. It's rooted in love. And love never fails. Love never gives up. Love never walks away. So let it be your identity. Let it be your mirror. Let it speak louder than your past. Because when your identity is written in love, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. It's already sealed. It's already decided. And once you know that, you become dangerous to anything that tried to break you. Because you finally see yourself the way God always saw you. Whole, worthy. Some of y'all are still living under names that were never yours. Failure, broken, unwanted. Those are not your names. Those are wounds. Those are echoes of past pain. But love comes to rename you. Love says you are chosen. Love says you are redeemed. Love says you are mine. That's what God does. He takes your shame and gives you identity. He takes your ashes and gives you beauty. But you've got to let him. You've got to let love in. Stop running, stop hiding, stop punishing yourself for mistakes that love already forgave. Let love touch the deepest part of you, the part no one sees, because that's the part that needs healing. And healing doesn't come through hustle. It comes through surrender, through opening your heart and letting love rewrite the script. You are not too far gone. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be to receive love and begin again. That's what love offers, not just healing, but identity, not just comfort, but calling. And when you accept that love, everything you thought defined you starts to fall away. All that remains is truth. This isn't about self-improvement. This is about self-acceptance, the kind that only love makes possible. See, when you start from love, everything you build is stable. Your confidence rooted, your decisions clear, your relationships healthy. Because you're not building from fear or lack, you're building from fullness, from truth. That's why love matters, not just in romance, not just in community, but in how you see yourself. You will never rise higher than the story you believe about who you are. So what's your story? Is it rooted in rejection or love? Is it built on lies or truth? If it's not rooted in love, it won't last. But the moment you shift, the moment you let love in, everything stabilizes. You stop striving, you start aligning. And when your identity is rooted in love, the world doesn't get to tell you who you are anymore. You already know. And that knowing, that's your freedom. That's your power. That's your rebirth. So let the world say what it wants. Let the past whisper its lies. Love already had the final word. And it said, You are mine. You are whole. You are loved. So if you're lost, come home. If you're tired, rest. If you're hurting, open your heart. Because love is not far, it's here. It's been chasing you. It's been waiting for you to stop running. And when you do, when you finally let love in, you won't just feel better, you'll become new. You shed the false self, you'll rise in truth. You'll walk in identity, not borrowed, not broken, but real. Whole, authored by love. And that identity, that's the one that can't be stolen. That's the one that speaks loud even in silence. That's the one that doesn't need validation to exist, because love already claimed you, love already named you, and love already made you new. That's the identity you were born to carry. That's the power that lives in you now. So walk in it, speak from it, live from it, because when love rewrites your identity, you don't just survive, you shine. In the journey of transformation, there is no force more powerful, more enduring, and more redeeming than love. Not the fleeting love built on conditions, but the kind that breaks chains, heals wounds, and rewrites your very identity. Through pain, rejection, loss, and self-doubt, it is love that shows up, not as a feeling, but as a choice, as an action, as a truth that doesn't change when you fail or fall short. Many of us were shaped by voices that told us we weren't enough, that we had to earn acceptance, prove our worth, or wear masks just to belong. But real love shatters those lies. It speaks directly to the soul, declaring that you are already worthy, already chosen, already loved, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, and more importantly, because of who you were always meant to become. You see, love is not just something you receive, it's something that transforms. It redefines how you see yourself, how you treat others, and how you engage with the world. It teaches you to forgive even when your heart aches, to believe in yourself when the voices around you are filled with doubt, to stand back up when life knocks you to your knees. Love is the force that gives you new eyes to see your past, not as a place of shame, but as a foundation for your strength. You can try to change through discipline, through willpower, through external validation, but without love, the change won't last. Only love can reach the deepest parts of who you are. Only love can replace the identity you were given by the world with the one you were designed for by your Creator. When you are loved, truly loved, your identity is not limited to your mistakes or even your victories. It's rooted in something eternal. And when you embrace that kind of love, you begin to love others the same way. You stop needing to compete. You stop needing to control. You stop judging others because you no longer judge yourself. That's the beauty of transformation through love. It creates freedom. A freedom that leads to peace, confidence. So if you're standing at a crossroads, unsure of who you are or where you're going, come back to love. Let it be the foundation. Let it speak to the places in you that no achievement ever could. Let it show you that you were never broken. You were only waiting to be loved the right way. And that love, once received, will redefine everything. Thank you for giving your time, your heart, and your attention today. May you walk forward from this moment, not in fear, but in the power of a new identity built on unshakable love. Stay strong, stay grounded, and remember, the greatest transformation begins with. God bless you. Thank you.